Alright, so what I'm going to do first is make my MACD signal, and then we'll start applying the time session solver to isolate when the signals can come through. So I'm just going to use a simple, let's see, how about just a simple threshold solver here. Alright, I'll just use the MACD line. Alright, and I'm just going to do something simple and just see when the MACD is above or below the 0 line. So I'll leave all my thresholds at 0, and so when it's above 0, I want a long output, and when it is below 0, I want a short output. Right, pretty simple. Okay, and let me switch over to the logic template. Well, actually first, let me give this a name. Alright, now I've got a name, and I'll switch over to the logic template here. So let's call this, let's see, call it morning trading time. No, I'll just call it morning trading. Keep it short. I kind of like to keep my name short. Okay, and drop down the existing threshold solver. Alright, so there we go. Looks good. All right, now I'm going to add a new time session solver here. So I'll connect this up, and so first thing I'm going to have to do with this time session solver is create a new session here. So I'll open up the session manager. So now this is NinjaTrader's session manager. So if you want help on this, just look at NinjaTrader's help documentation for the session manager. And so NinjaTrader, since we're actually calling up NinjaTrader's session manager here, so that they have all the help documentation on how to on how to use this dialog here. And let's see. So what do I want to do here? I'm going to take I believe I think this was the NQ. Yeah, I've got the NQ on my chart. So I'm going to take an existing session here that NinjaTrader that comes with NinjaTrader. So I'm going to use the U.S. Index Futures regular trading hours. There we go. So 8:30 Central Time is when the regular trading session begins, and then it ends at 3. So I'm just going to modify this. So let's see. So this right here. All right. So let me see. Getting back to Victor's question. So Victor, if you just want to trade a full session, right? So as you see, Victor, I've got a 24/7 session on my chart. And if you only want, so if you want to have a 24-hour session on your chart, but only want to trade during regular trading hours, then just use NinjaTrader's default session for whatever instrument you're trading. Right, so you do just load this session up. I just hit OK, and the next step is I need to drop an AND node on here, and you can see we're in the overnight session, So if I scroll forward, there we go. Let me scroll back to yesterday. So here the regular trading hour session is marked here with our time session solver. So now we'll take an AND node, connect that up, and then put our signal into it. And there we go. So now we can see, so now we're only seeing, the MACD signals during the regular trading hours. So that is kind of like part 2 of Victor's question there. So now let me, I'm going to take this NinjaTrader session here. And one thing to note is, for some reason, their session manager always puts you back to this default session here. So whenever you open it up, just keep in mind it always changes on you, and you have to go find your session again. And there we go. So I'm going to put that on there. And to make my own, I'm going to hit the copy button. And it'll ask for a name. And I typically put an underscore first because that puts it on the top of the list. And I'll show you that in a minute. So let's see, let me call it the first two hours of the regular trading session there. All right, so now you can see it changed the name up top there. Now I can go in and modify this. So let's see, 10:30. Oops. There we go. Make sure it's on AM. All right, so I want to make sure everything's correct. So I got 8:30 Monday through Friday, and then let's see, 10:30 a.m. on all of them. Great, and then I have to remember to save it. Click the save button, locks it in there. Click OK, and now we can see. Now we're only getting signals during that new session template that I just made there. All right, so that essentially is the first one. Very simple, straightforward. Just use a time session solver with an AND node, and essentially this guy here, or this leader, would represent the rest of your system that you only want to provide a signal, during whatever, whatever time of day that you set up in your time session solver. All right, I see a couple of questions came in when I was doing this, so let me just read through these real quick and see if anybody had any comments about this particular lesson here before I move on. All right, Daniel, I'll get back to your question towards the end there. And let's see. All right, and Randy, I'll add your comment towards the end as well. Okay, it looks like Tony has a comment about this particular system here. So he's saying, Tony's saying, I don't agree with your statement. As a trader, I want to use my indicators with a certain session, because otherwise my indicators will miss data. Then I still want to trade with a limited time, say 9 to 11 a.m. Tony, I'm not quite sure what statement you're disagreeing with. So maybe, let's see, you're saying I want to use my indicators with a certain session because otherwise my indicators will miss data. So Tony, it kind of sounds like what you're saying is you like to have a 24-hour chart or have your chart set to a 24-hour session. Right, so that's why I set this to a 24-hour session so that the indicators behave nice and smoothly. Right, so you don't get your indicators, making a big move if there's a gap between yesterday's session and today's session. So let me just change this real quick. So I just put this on regular trading hours. Right, you can see, well, yeah, there's no real big spike here in the MACD. But something like this. So I think what Tony's saying is he likes to have his charts on a 24-hour session so you don't get big spikes in your indicators like this. And so that's exactly what this lesson is about, is being able to use the 24-hour chart so that your indicators are nice and smooth. And let's see, where were we? I think it's probably around here. So your indicators are nice and smooth, but you only get you only allow signals through during the time of day that you actually want your system to trade. So that's what this system is all about. Okay, so I did answer Tony's questions. Okay, great. And so, okay, Vittorio's noticed. So Vittorio noticed that the time on my chart is from 7:30 until 9:30, right? That's because I'm in Mountain Time, and so you got to keep in mind on NinjaTrader session template, you have to keep in mind what time zone is specified down here. So if I pull up the CME here, CME stands for Chicago Mercantile Exchange. Chicago is on Central Time, so they set their session template up to work on session time, and so that's why it says 8:30. I'm in Mountain Time, so it's an hour difference. So that's why on my chart it gets converted to 7:30. All right. So once again, Vittorio, I suggest you read NinjaTrader's help documentation so you understand exactly how NinjaTrader's session manager works, and that'll help you understand what the differences are between the times that are happening here. And so when I made my own, back to why I use the underscore on the name, so you can see all these underscores here are ones that I have made previously. And so let's see, yeah, so this is the one that I made just now, and I left it on Central Time. You know, I could have moved this to Mountain Time, and I would have had to change this to 7:30, and I would have to change this to 9:30 if I changed this to Mountain Time. But I just wanted to save some time, so I left it alone. And let's see, Randy's saying you were at this oh, you were pointing out the time, let's see, 9, Randy was saying when I showed that weird, or that extreme movement in the MACD previously, before I changed my chart session, he was saying I was, I think, right in here. Yeah, so look, here's Friday closed down here, and then Monday gapped up over here. So this was the time of where my MACD, any case. All right, so let's move on to the next step down here. So I've been asked, so I've kind of found one way to address this opening range breakout. It's not perfect, but it may work for you, and I'll have to kind of explain the limitations here on this. To really kind of do it right, it does require a dedicated indicator, as Jeremy was explaining last week, a dedicated indicator to actually define your, you know, the high, to not define, but to track the highest high and the lowest low during your opening range. So if you had a dedicated indicator, you know, it allows more flexibility for that. But what I've done as kind of as a solution, you know, with certain limitations, is you can see I've got this 30-minute chart over here. So if I wanted to track a 30-minute opening range, I have this 30-minute chart over here, and you can see I put Chameleon on it. So Chameleon, I have it set up so that I can see the highs and lows on the chart. So that way I just have a visual representation. So I can see what's going on over here while I build the system on my 5-minute chart or whatever chart I want. So I'll switch this over to a 1-minute chart. And we'll begin building this breakout signal here. So I'll create a new session here. And we'll just call it, I guess, the opening range. And I think the first thing I want to do, is just build my main signal, right? So the main signal is looking for price to break the previous 30-minute bars range, or the previous 30-minute bars high or low, right, as marked by Chameleon here. So that's a comparison. So I'm going to be comparing, you know, price of the current bar to the high and the low of my 30-minute bar here. So I'll drop a comparison on there. And so I'm going to be using the closing price. So this is going to be the closing price of my 1-minute chart here. And then for indicator B, I'm going to be looking at the high and the low of the 30-minute bar. So to get that, I can use Chameleon. So I'll put Chameleon on here, and I'm going to use, I need to set this alternate time frame to true. And so now I can put in here a 30-minute chart. All right, so Chameleon is now going to be feeding me data on the 30-minute chart. And what I want is, so when I break the high of the 30-minute chart, I want a long, and when I break the low, I want a short signal. And so here's the important distinction, is I need to set my displacement to 1, right? Because essentially, if we're on the 30-minute chart over here, right, we're going to be looking on this. Let's see here. Hold on, let me. Okay, so this bar after the time session marker here. So this is the first half hour of the day on this bar here. So let me just kind of mark that here. So this is the first bar. This bar here on the time session marker is actually from the previous day. Right, so this is the first bar of the day, the first bar of the morning. And just so you guys can see, all right, I'm using the CME Index Futures regular trading hours session. So after the first 30-minute bar defines a range, then we're going to be on the next bar here. So this bar is going to be in building. So this bar will be building here with the diamond. It'll be in motion. And so while we're on this bar, we actually want to be looking back 1 bar. So that's why we have the displacement set to 1, so that we look back 1 bar. And essentially, we're just looking for the current closing price of the 1-minute bar to break the high and low by just any amount. So we'll just leave this to 0, and we can leave all the outputs at their default. And so here I can see, and you can see we have signals here. And if you look, see, I have the global crosshairs turned on. So you can, let's see. Yeah, we're going to be getting some crazy results because remember, this 1-minute chart here is on a 24-hour session versus this chart here. So we're not seeing the 24-hour session on this chart. So we're not actually going to be seeing what's going on until I move forward. Actually, let me move backwards. All right, I'm going to mark up my 30-minute chart again. So this is the first session bar, and let me mark when the market opened here. There we go. All right. If you don't have this drawing toolbar, I highly recommend it. Right, so as you're building your system, it really helps to give yourself some visual some visual aids here. So here's the the first bar of the regular trading hours, and so if you look at the horizontal line here, so if you look on the 30-minute chart, you see how the crosshair, the horizontal crosshair, lines up with the green hash mark of that bar right there. And so we can see the 1 minute on the 1 minute chart now. This bar broke that hash line, and so that's why we're getting a long signal, because it's so this area here. So let me kind of mark that. So this area here is looking back onto this bar here, this bar. So it's not looking at the opening bar, but it's looking back, and it's looking at this price right here. So I'll just mark it with the red diamond. So this is the price that it's looking at. So this 1 minute bar here on the 1 minute chart, right, it closed above where the red diamond is on the 30-minute chart. So that's how this is working. And so right now, because we have different different session templates, this is on 24-hour session template, and the 30-minute chart is on a regular trading hour session template. Things just look kind of crazy. But so you just have to take in faith that it is working correctly, and we'll be getting some more understandable signals once I kind of complete the rest of the system. All right, so let's see the next step. Let's see. So the next step is I want to remove all of these signals here in the early morning. Right? I only want signals essentially after the first half hour, right? Because this first half hour block here is defining our opening range. And let's see, I just want to make sure I got this rectangle drawn correctly. Yeah. All right. So this rectangle here represents our first half hour of the opening range. And you can see the high here matches the high on the 30-minute chart bar, and so does the low. So clearly I don't want a signal here when the opening range is being built. I want a signal afterwards. So I have to go back and create a custom time session template that will only allow signals during or after the first 30-minute opening range session. So let's put a time session solver on here. I'll connect that up, and I already have one built just to save me some time. And let's see here, I believe I want the second half hour. Yeah. And let's see. Yeah, I believe that's the one I want. I'm just trying to do some time conversion in my head. There we go. Yep. Great. So here's kind of the limitation of using the 30-minute chart over here with Chameleon on the 30-minute chart. The limitation is remember that the comparison solver here, I should give this a name. let's see. So we're dealing with the close. Let's see. We're dealing with the close of 1 minute to the close of the 30-minute comparison. Now, so the limitation is on this solver is that we're always looking back. We have a displacement set to 1. So as time moves forward, we're always looking back to the previous 30-minute candle. So let's just say here on the 30-minute chart, right, so this opening 30-minute bar is done, and now we're trading inside of this 30-minute bar, and so we're looking back. But so when we get to this 30-minute bar here, now we're looking back to the wrong 30-minute bar. We're looking back to the wrong time. So that's the limitation of doing it this way. So our breakout has to occur on the next, or on the second 30-minute time period, or the 30-minute bar. And you can see we have an inside bar here, so we're not going to get any signals on this day, but some other days do. Okay, so back to the system. So we have our main signal built, and we have the time session solver, which will only allow signals during the next half hour of the trading session. So we'll just join them together with an AND node. And let's go find some signals here. Okay, so here we go. So I'm going to put some visuals up here. Alright, so this is the first bar of the trading session. And then next I'll define our opening range. Let's see. There. Alright, and we can see the first bar that closed below our lower range gave us a signal. Excuse me, I had to cough. Alright, so now let's take this even further, and let's just get one signal on the first bar of the break. So that way so typically we want a nice clean looking signal. So we want to strip out the rest of these bars that have short signals on them. So let's squish the MACD down. There we go. So to remove the other signals here, pretty straightforward. We'll just use the signal blocker. So I'll drop the signal blocker on there. And so now, how do we set the signal blocker up? Well, clearly 5 bars is not enough. So even probably even 100 bars is not enough. If I put it on 100 bars, I'll probably get some other. Oh, I'll have to go back a day. Go back in time here. Let's see, that's right. This day had an inside bar on the next 30 minutes, so no signals there. And there's a signal. All right, let me mark this up real quick. There. All right, there's our opening range, and the next bar after broke it. And let's see, I'm not, kind of surprised I'm not getting any more signals afterwards. Yeah, see, 100 bars, that is just over an hour and a half. So after an hour and a half, I would think we'd be getting some more signals coming in through here. I'm kind of surprised we don't. Well, let me check the previous day here. All right, so we got a couple bars that broke. Interesting. Okay, yeah, so we got two signals there, and we only want one. So let's see what's going on here with the signal blocker. Yeah, okay, great. So what happened is, well, I'll just go through, I'm not finding any good examples here, really, to kind of explain. Yeah, I'm not finding any good examples to explain why this reset after 100 doesn't work, but when I was playing around with this last night, it wasn't working. So I'll just kind of go through and show you what should be set up on the reset so it works in all conditions here. So for the input no signal, this is on true, and so that's why the second bar here occurred, because this down bar essentially went closed below our opening range. Oh, I guess I do need our opening range on here. So there's our opening range. So when this down bar closed below our opening range, essentially there was no signal coming out of our comparison solver, right? Because the close is below the range. So there's no signal. And so back to the signal blocker, this input no signal reset the signal blocker, and it allowed this second signal to come through. So I'll set this to false. All right, so turning that to false eliminated that secondary signal. But what also we should do, just for good measure, is this input opposite signal. We should turn this off. And the only one that we do want left on true is the reset signal. Now we don't have anything going into the reset signal yet, but to make this a more robust system, we should build something to go into this reset here. And as I was saying earlier, this reset after 100 bars is really not enough bars. That's only an hour and a half. And of course we have the rest of the 24-hour session to go until we get to the next day's opening range. And I'm just really surprised there's no other signals. I'm just going to scan through my chart real quick, and of course it's not going to look very good coming through on the webinar. Oh, that's right, that's right. So here's a subtle difference that I did when I was kind of experimenting with this system last night. So the reason why it is working with the signal blocker set like this, the reason why it is working because of this time session solver. So if you remember, if I take a look at this, it's only because this time session is right connected to our comparison solver with the AND node, it's only allowing signals during the time session period. So it's blocking out the signals afterwards. And that's right. So that's something I didn't do last night when I was kind of playing around with this. So that actually makes it a lot easier to use the signal blocker, just like that. So really, I don't even need to use the reset signal, so I can just turn that off as well. I can turn all of these on false and just 100 bars. Let's see, I don't even need 100 bars. I really only need 30 bars. Yeah, I only need 30 bars because this time period here is only 30 bars. But I'll just leave it on 100. So that is how you can do an opening range breakout just with some limitations. So to recap, the limitation is whatever your opening range time is. So I used 30 minutes. So you can only get a signal on the next 30 minutes if you use 30 minutes. If you're using a 20-minute opening range breakout system, then this system would only give you a signal on the next 20 minutes of that. So that's kind of the limitations there. So if we had an indicator that would just lock on and hold this opening range for the rest of the day, then we could create a system that would give us a breakout, for however long we would take the signal for. So, I mean, I remember personally kind of playing around with this breakout system, and I kind of determined that it was really only good for like an hour after your opening range. If you let it go any longer, it just seemed like the breakouts just became kind of weaker and less reliable. So, all right. So with that, let me address Julie's question here. So she's asking, can you add in how to buy if the current bar is higher than the previous 3 bars high? All right. So I believe, let me use the minute chart here, and I'm going to make a new session or a new logic template. And I believe what I want, let's see, let me think about this. I think I'm going to try and use one of NinjaTrader's obscure indicators. Let's see, N bars up. No, that's not the one. Okay. So let me use Chameleon. So I'm going to try and use Chameleon to do this. And so I'm going to set my look back to 3. And okay, I'm going to change the default plots on this. So So I like to see the hash. So there's some other plots that are on by default. So I'm going to go in there and turn them to transparent. Okay, great. Let me just make this a lighter green here, lime. Okay. All right, so what this is going to do is Chameleon's going to track the lowest low and the highest high of the previous 3 bars. And so, let's see. So like for example here, we're clearly in a downtrend, so all these bars are breaking the previous low. And see, let me make these bars a little bigger. All right, so if we pick this uptrend, we'll work with breaking the highs to follow along with Julie's example here. So Chameleon is marking right the highest high of the previous 3 bars. All right, so we got 2 bars here, this highest high, and then the next bar breaks it. So this is the highest high of the previous 3 bars. So now what we need to do is find out when does this high change. When does the high change? When does this plot move up? Because clearly, if we've reached a high point and this stays the same, right? If we're not going higher, then we don't want a signal here. So we're going to be looking for when we get a signal when the current bar. And so let's make this. All right, so we'll make this the current bar. So what we're going to be doing is comparing the Chameleon's high plot of the current bar to the high plot of the previous bar back. Let me see. There we go. So let me give this some kind of a name. All right, something like that, a 3-bar high-low break. So let me drop a comparison solver on here. Okay, so an indicator A. In indicator A, we're going to be looking at the current bar over here. So we're going to be looking at the current high and low. So to get the high and low price, we're going to use Chameleon. And let's see. So for the highs, we want a long signal, and for the lows, we want a short signal. And then for indicator B, we're going to be looking at the same, the high and the low, but of the previous bar. So we want to look at the previous bar here. So, and also what we want to do is we want to set our look back to 3 on this time. And so for the highs, we want a long signal. For the lows, we want a short signal. And just keep in mind, this time we want to track the last 3 bars. So now I need to set this displacement to 1. So that way I'm looking back on the previous plot. And so there we have it. So Julie, let's see. All right, I see Julie kind of wrote in some comments here. Julie's asking, Zach, can you throw a Fibonacci on that as soon as price breaks the 30-minute high-low? Oh, you must have been talking about the previous session there. Let's see. Well, let me kind of get back to that. Well, Julie, I guess just to answer your question, I mean, sure, I could throw a Fibonacci on there. You know, so I think Julie's comment was regarding the opening range session that that I was talking about. But if I throw an opening range, I mean, I could throw one on there. So sorry to keep jumping back and forth on you guys. Let's see, where is trying to find a day that I have marked up with that rectangle. Let's see. Well, sorry, Jill. Let me get back to this question so I don't get too off track here. All right, so this next one's from Julie as well. Zach, if price breaks back up through the opening, okay, another opening range question. And let's go down to the next one. So, and if price breaks inside the opening range, then okay, another opening range question. Sorry, I'll get back to that. Let's see. Yeah, so Tom is saying Big Mike has an indicator. Yeah, if I remember from when Jeremy did this, I think a couple of people mentioned that Big Mike's had an indicator that would trap this opening range. So that would help out a lot. So Victor, you're saying, Zach, were you going to show how to backtest 2 hours versus the full session? So Victor, that was the first thing I had answered when I had built the first system. I actually mentioned your name and just so you know, I was pointing out how to backtest the full session versus the full 2 hours. So Victor already answered that for you. So I'll try and get this recording up as soon as possible, so you can get that. And all right, so now I'm going to jump back. Looks like Julie didn't have any further questions on this breaking the previous 3-bar high here. So I'm going to jump back and try and answer Julie's other questions regarding this opening range system. So let me change my template. All right, so let me try and find some opening ranges here that I had marked up. And oh, great, there's one. Nice. So Julie's question is, Zach, can you throw a Fibonacci on that as soon as price breaks? So sure, I could just use the drawing tool here. And oh, actually I turned my Fibonacci stuff off on my drawing tool. So let me just go here. I'm guessing you want the Fibonacci. So, and let's see, trying to figure out where you want to end. Well, I'm not sure where you want this to end, but I'll just end the Fibonacci instrument on the actual bar that broke it. And so there you go. So if you're asking, can BloodHound, no, BloodHound doesn't put any objects on the chart other than just painting the chart. So you would need to put something like a Fibonacci retracement or extension or something like that, you would need a dedicated indicator to do something like that. So, all right. Next question Julie has here is, if price breaks back up through the opening range and through the other side, the signal needs to reverse. Okay, yeah, right. I think that typically is a part of how the opening range system works. And so once again, yeah, if price broke back up through the high end of this range, because of the limitation I explained earlier, that essentially the breakout needs to occur within the following half hour. Essentially, probably to have price break the other side of the opening range, typically I would think would take longer than half an hour. But if you did have an indicator that was tracking this, one change that you would need to make on your signal blocker is, actually I would need to turn one of these resets back on. So the input opposite signal would need to be turned back on. I actually turned it off, and it's on by default. So I just need to turn that back on. And so in this case, right, we have a short signal. So the short signal turned the signal blocker on, effectively turned it on. And so if price broke above, right, the upper range and it gave us a long signal, right, that would be opposite, right, a long signal would be opposite of the short signal. So that's why we would want the input opposite signal to reset the signal blocker. No, that would So that would allow the long signal to occur, and then would block the rest of the signals after that. And I have, let's see, one more question. Looks like two more. So Julie's next question is, and if price trades inside the opening range, then the signal needs to be neutral. Yes. So the way this is set up, that is actually the case. Let's see. Let me find. There was an inside day here somewhere. Let me pull my 30-minute chart up again. There. Oops. Okay, here's my inside date, sir. This is the first 30-minute bar, and you can see the rest of these bars are all inside that range. And so here it is on the one. Okay, yeah. Oh, so I do have it marked up. Great. So here's our opening range, and as we scan through, we can see all of these bars are just inside that open range, and so there would be no signal. Oh. And it looks like I have one more comment here, or question. Julie's asking, does the Fibonacci drawing tool provide a trading signal? No, it does not. So these, all these drawing tools here, and all these chart markers, all this stuff in here is not readable by an indicator. So NinjaTrader didn't provide any direct access to get the data from any of these things. If I put this dot on here, I can open it up and I can look at the property. I can look at the data. I can see what price it's at, and I can see the time. But unfortunately, NinjaTrader didn't give us a direct way to access this. I can see it visually this way, but from a programmer standpoint, we don't have a direct way to access this data. So hopefully that'll be something available to programmers in version 8. All right. Okay, so let me get back to some other questions here. All right, so it looks like I got 2 questions left, and then we'll kind of wrap this up here. So back to Daniel's question. I wasn't 100% sure about this, but did we get 2 licenses when we purchased BloodHound? Correct. Yes, so when you purchase BloodHound, Jeremy and I strongly believe that you should always have a backup computer when you're trading live money, right? So we give you 2 licenses, one for your main trading computer and one for your backup computer, whatever that may be. We suggest that you should have at least a laptop or something as a backup computer that you should always have on and ready to go in case your main computer, takes a dive. That way, you can see where your account sits. So yes, you get 2 licenses. when you purchase BloodHound. And if you have 3 computers, you can buy an additional seat at a significantly discounted rate. So if you need to buy a 3rd seat or a 3rd license, just send in a request to support@sharkindicators.com, and we'll send you a link to where you can do that. So it's not publicly available on the website because we don't want people buying that by accident. So we only give the link when people directly ask for it. And let's see, Randy here. Let's see, Randy's got a question or a comment. If you do a NinjaTrader backup before closing, when you plan to update NT, I've never had an issue with strategies and default indicators saves causing crashes. Oh, okay. Well, that's good to know, Randy. So Randy's suggesting that you, before you upgrade your NinjaTrader, to run a backup. All right, just run a full backup. You may want to exclude the data in your backup. So if I do a backup with my data, my backup file is about 100 gigabytes. It takes a really long time. So because I have like probably 6 years of data, historical data inside of my database. So that's probably not the case with most of you, but if any of you have had NinjaTrader for about 5 years, you may have a lot of historical data in your database. So just be cautious of that. All right, so Julie's got a comment here, I guess for the rest of you traders, on the opening range system. The way I trade opening range is after a 5-minute breakout, I will follow price up to a Fibonacci extension. Okay, so let's see. So it looks like, if I get this right, I think, there we go, Fibonacci extension. So we'll go from here to here, and then I guess, I don't know, either this point or this point. This is probably a bad example because this is an inside day. So let me find a better example. So there we go. All right, so Fibonacci extension here. And all right, so Julie is suggesting a 277 and a 500. All right, and let's apply that on there. And I should make this a little brighter so we can see it. There we go. And I really have to squish my chart down in order to get to it. There we go. Let's see. I drew my extension the wrong way, didn't I? Um, so let me modify this here. There we go. I need to get this guy out of here. Okay. There. So here's Julie's way of trading this breakout range. And I have to really squish this down. So she's going up to the 277 and the 500. And oh, so actually she's correcting me here. She's using the regular retracement. And I'm going to have to reverse this here. So let's try again. All right, retracement. So we got the high point, the low point. All right, and let's put a 277 and 500. Make those white a little brighter. Oh, I didn't turn them on. There we go. Let's turn them on. There we go. So, something like that, I'm guessing. All right. Oh, looks like I did get it right. Julie said yes. Okay. Great. And all right, just going through some comments here, see if there's anything last minute there I'll cover. Otherwise, I'll bid you guys a good weekend. Let's see. All right, so Rick's got a question here. Just wanted to comment on Julie's question about readable fibs. There is an indicator on big mics called Fibonacci cluster. All right, so it's called Fibonacci cluster. It's readable by BloodHound. All right, thank you, Rick. Yeah, you know, I do need to I kind of realize that since a couple of guys have said there's something out there. Last time I looked, I really didn't find anything. So I will go find one of these or hopefully a couple of them, test them out. That way I'll have something on my system that I can show you guys how to use. And Rick says it's written by Fat Tails. So that's probably a very good indicator then. Fat Tails writes indicators for strategies. So Fat Tails is into coding his own strategies, I believe. You know, so if you write an indicator to work with a strategy, that means it has the output data that BloodHound needs readable. So, so this Fibonacci cluster is probably going to be a really good indicator for this type of purpose. So I will try and spend some time in playing with that this next coming week, and maybe give you guys a quick preview next week. So although I do kind of have plans for next week, I'm possibly doing some more volume work, so we'll see how that goes. All right. right, let's see. One last comment from Tony. I have a vendor indicator who does not expose to BloodHound. The programmer said he does not know how. Let's see. Well, Tony, you know, for all of you guys out there, if you have a third-party indicator and you'd like them to, you know, expose their data for BloodHound to be able to read, and they're willing to do that, you know, we've kind of found that most of those guys out there don't want to invest the time. A lot of them aren't programmers themselves. That means they have to hire somebody, and they don't want to put out that expense. That's kind of been a couple of experiences that we've had, but some of them do. Some of them do see the benefits of having their product work with our product, you know, and the benefits of you know, that kind of a indirect partnership. So hopefully, so you're always welcome to send your, you know, the vendor of your third-party indicator, send them an introduction email. Basically, you being the customer, you have to request this, since you're the customer, to that vendor, you know, asking them to open up or to expose their data publicly to BloodHound. And we're more than willing to work with them and explain to them what BloodHound needs. You know, so we know that some of these guys aren't programmers themselves, so we're happy to explain it to them. So and we're happy to work with their programmer. You know, so if your third-party vendor has to hire out another programmer, we're happy to work with them. So yeah, feel free to send them an indicator or an email. Let them know that we're willing to, you know, have a meeting with them and kind of talk about this. So we've already done that a couple of times with some of the vendors. So all right, well, so with that, I'll close this up. So you guys have a good weekend, and we'll see you next Friday.